Hi and welcome to this Blueberry Markets video update with me, John Kibler, head currency analyst. In this video, we're going to go through the Forex market wrap. We're going to highlight what happened in the news this week and some charts that we discussed in our videos. So let's take a look at what happened in the news. Now, there was a big news week that we were discussing, and one of the things that we really wanted to discuss was the US dollar and the FOMC rate statement and press conference. The reason being is because we were expecting the Federal Reserve to announce their tapering, and they did, which was expected by the market. Now, what we wanted to find out after the point was, would the market take this in a positive way or will it take it negatively? Was essentially the move priced in into the market. Now, at the start of the week, the data for the US was pretty good. We had some ISM manufacturing PMI data come in quite good. The ADP non-farm employment change came in quite good as well, which was a sign that potentially we were going to get a good NFP number. And yeah, so everything for the dollar was pretty positive. So we were fairly bullish US dollar going into this week. It was just whether or not we were going to see a continuation of that strength or whether we were going to get a reversal on the fact that the move had been priced in. We've actually started to see a little bit of dollar weakness coming into the market now, but we'll take a little look at that in the dollar index in a second. Some more news for the week was the Bank of England. The Bank of England there was some rumour that they would potentially hike rates. They were forecast to keep rates the same at 0.1%, and I think it would have been a real shock to the market if the Bank of England had announced any type of interest rate increase, and the market took it negatively that they didn't announce the interest rate increase and that they held, and we saw pound actually fall, which was quite interesting to see happen in the market. So we'll go take a little look at that, especially against pound yen, because pound yen we were talking about trading that retracement phase back to a key weekly support level. So we'll see how pound gets on next week, but essentially it's looking quite bearish at the moment. Finally then, we had the NFP numbers. The average hourly earnings stayed the same at 0.4%. We had an increase in the jobs to 531,000 from an expected 455,000. We also had a revision on the previous numbers, and that was positive up to 312k. Unemployment rate fell as well, so everything was pretty bullish for the US dollar going into this, but we've hit some key resistance levels, which we'll talk about in a second. One thing that we looked at in the week ahead analysis video was the US 10-year bond yields. We talked about the fact that when the yields are bullish, which is the green line here, the dollar index typically follows it. When they turn bearish, we usually see the bond yields fall in line with the dollar index. So the move pretty correlated to each other. Now, what we've seen quite recently was a fall in bond yields, and you can actually see when we jump over to a chart in a second that the US dollar has now started to follow that path. So let's go take a look at that right now, and you can see here we have a US dollar index 4-hour chart here, and this was just screenshot a couple of moments ago, and the price has reached that major swing level we were talking about, around about 94.50, where we suggested that this was a huge level on the dollar index. If price was to break above and stay above this level, it would have been a very bullish indication from the US dollar. However, what we've had was the market, which started off quite negatively at the start of the week, found some support at previous structure levels where we were talking about trading the potential reaction here. The market then continued and rallied in line with our expectations. This was the sort of day where we had the FOMC announcement. The dollar then rallied the day after we, all the data for the week had been pretty positive. We've hit this key level now. Now we're probably starting to see some sellers coming in due to the fact that we have the bond yields falling, and we probably just having end of week profit taken. So it'd be interesting to see if price can remain bullish going into next week, as we are rejecting this huge level. If price kind of hints at a change of trend, which currently would be a break of these lows, if we were to get a break of these lows, we could see some further downside. Alternatively, what we may see is a return back to the level, and if the dollar finds some sellers here again, we could then start to see price remain within this sort of trading range that we've seen recently, between sort of 94.54 and around about 93.50. So it'd be an interesting week for the dollar to come next week. Going on to dollar CAD then. So dollar CAD was a market that we discussed in the week ahead analysis for a potential bullish week. We were talking about the fact that the previous week had formed a very low ranging week, and that the market was in an overall downtrend. So we were looking for this downtrend to continue, but we were looking for it to continue from around about 125. Price has not made it there yet, but we can see here at the moment we are making those higher highs and higher lows towards that level. So we still may hit this 125 before seeing a trend continuation phase. This is all going to depend on how the dollar performs going into next week. But essentially what we were looking at was potentially buying this market up this week. So if you did try to trade this market long, then you would have had a pretty decent week on dollar CAD. Moving on to pound yen then. So pound yen was a video that we had a brief video done previously on. We discussed the pound yen and the potential for the market to pull back into this key 153 level. Price has now reached this level. We're basically talking about this consolidation and this resistance or support zone through here. If price broke through, we were very much on the bearish side of pound yen. When price reached this level, this is when we actually had the Bank of England announcement to leave rates unchanged. Price dropped through the floor here, and we saw price has now kind of consolidated for today's session in and around this key major support. So this was an area we were talking about longer term we'd probably want to see some buying action come from. And this is going to depend on the yen as well, because the yen has strengthened slightly over the past couple of days. So it'll be interesting to see if price can start to bounce. What we may actually see more of is a return back to the previous lows, another move back to the lows, and then we'll have to decide whether price is going to move through there or move back to the upside. So pound yen is going to be an interesting market. I'd probably remain on the bearish side of things in the short term. Bigger picture, weekly is looking quite bullish, but we may remain sort of in and around these areas for the next couple of weeks or so. Finally then, Euro Oz. So we looked at Euro Oz as a reversal this week. The reason being is because we reached that major support level around about 154, which was the measured move of this head and shoulders pattern. Now it looks like we're finding support back down at this level with this very strong bullish close. And we've also looked into this week the fact that the Australian dollar was at a reversal level on the strength meter, and that we could start to see some Aussie weakness in the short term. Now, looking at this chart, what it looks like to me is that we could be seeing a retest of this neckline area, which means that we should start to see some lower time frame trend on Euro Aussie for price to move back up potentially into the neckline area around about 159. So could start to look for some buying opportunities on Euro Oz going into next week. So I hope you enjoyed the content this week. If you did, please leave this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the YouTube channel to see some more of our Forex content, and I'll speak to you in the next video.